morning. I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Self-confessed drug lord Kerwin Espinosa, who is running for mayor of Albuera, Leyte, is now recovering after being shot during a campaign rally yesterday.
A gubernatorial bet is under fire for mocking a rival's illness. Now, Comelec wants answers.
The Filipino-Chinese business community has expressed concern over the recent cases of kidnapping involving fellow entrepreneurs in the country.
And Creamline forces a deciding Game 3 after surviving Petrogas in a PVL Finals match.
First in the news, Kerwin Espinosa, a self-confessed drug lord and mayoral candidate for Albuera, Leyte, was shot during a campaign rally yesterday. Here's the report.
Kerwin Espinosa, a self-confessed drug lord, was shot during a campaign rally on Thursday. He's running for mayor of Albuera, Leyte. According to the initial police investigation, Espinosa was waiting for his turn to speak at a gymnasium in Barangay Tinagan when the incident occurred. Espinosa was immediately rushed to the hospital after sustaining a gunshot wound to his shoulder. The gunman is said to have hidden in the ceiling of the stage. The Albuera police said that besides Espinosa, another resident, a minor, was injured in the incident. Information from the Comelec revealed that Espinosa's sibling was also injured. The Commission on Elections condemned the attempt on Espinosa's life and that of his companions. For now, the manhunt for the gunman continues. Meanwhile, in a Facebook Live, Espinosa assured he would continue his candidacy and not be intimidated by the incident.
Padayon gihapon kita sa ato ang tumong ug tinguha. Ayaw dili kita magpadala sa kahadlok. Nahitabo kini kanako kay tungod dili sila gusto nga ako'y mulingkod isip mayor sa Albuera. Kay maapektahan man gyud ilang mga negosyo. No? So nagpasalamat ko kaninyong tanan nagiampo ko ninyo. Maunay giingon nga dili gyud itugot ang dautan nga mahitabo kang Dodong Kerwin.
Espinosa became widely known after disclosing details about the alleged illegal drug trade under the administration of former President Rodrigo Duterte. He was charged with drug-related cases, but they were later dismissed. Espinosa also testified in hearings against former Senator Laila de Lima, but he later retracted his statements. He is the son of former Albuera Mayor Ronaldo Espinosa Sr., who was also linked to drugs and was later killed in an alleged shootout in prison.
Yeah, sino ba hindi makakalimot dyan kay Kerwin Espinosa during the time of President Rodrigo Duterte?
Yeah, and I think it was SOJ Vitaliano Aguirre at the time. Si Kerwin kasi was one of the most, one of the critical witnesses or crucial witnesses against then former Senator Laila de Lima sa case, which later on he recanted as saying he was coerced into his statement. And because yung sunod-sunod na pag-recant nila, na-dismiss yung charges against
Kaya, hence na payagan siyang makatakbo.
Makatakbo ulit.
Sa
Inamin niya that he used to use drugs kasi di ba sinasabing drug lord siya. Na gumagamit siya ng drugs in his earlier years pero na-reform niya yung sarili niya. But hindi daw siya drug lord at nagbibenta yung statement niya. Controversial yung pagkapatay sa daddy niya
sa loob ng kulungan.
Oo, kasi shootout daw. Pero ang sabi ng iba, paano ka mag-shootout na sa loob ka ng prison cell? Di ba? Wala ka naman laban na sa loob ka ng kulungan.
Totoo.
So, very controversial yung
and I'm sure talagang marami
history nitong Espinosa family.
Oo, marami silang mga, ang tawag dito, mga nakakaaway along the way dahil nga dun sa link nila sa drugs.
Oo,
diba?
madami silang kaaway na families. Very known kasi sa, mas lalo sa Albuera area, tsaka sa Leyte. Very, anong tawag dito? May tawag dito, I forgot what you call it, but yung pag-aaway ng mga pamilya over the pwesto, Binanggit nga ni
Rido
Kerwin.
ba?
Hindi, Rido.
Hindi, iba
isa
yan
na.
sa family.
Binanggit ni Kerwin yan. Yung mga negosyo nyo, maapektuhan pag ako manalo. Diba? So,
Away pamilya sa politika,
yeah.
yan yung mga Rido. Pero ito nga, of course, 1 month na lang, malapit na yung eleksyon, sabay-sabay pa nagkakaroon ng iba't ibang mga negative reports, diba? Dun sa
Sunod-sunod.
mga kandidato.
Sunod-sunod.
So, I don't know if they're going to place, although this one is an isolated case, they may say an isolated case, siguro hindi naman malagay sa election hotspot yung
may mga
lugar.
hotspots na tayo na rin.
Oo, pero ito yung kila Espinosa, we
Yeah.
don't know. Pero ang sinasabi nga dito, meron naman daw siya mga bodyguards, kaya lang itong si Espinosa wanted a certain distance doon sa bodyguard. And I think sa may malayo daw sa may bandang puno
Yung gunman.
yung gunman. Kasi 'di ba na parang nasa stage or something.
Sa shoulder tinamaan eh.
Alright, ito another news. Another candidate is under scrutiny by the COMELEC. This time for a statement made about a rival who is seriously ill. Here's the report.
Nasa hospital na po yung kalaban namin. Hindi ko po pinabaril. May sakit po na bypass, kidney, stage 5, cancer.
Hindi po cancer, stage 5.
Cancer na rin! Kaya hindi na po makapangampanya, kaya kami po ay nakaluwag.
COMELEC has given Nueva Ecija gubernatorial candidate Virgilio Bote 3 days to explain these remarks against a mayoral candidate battling a severe illness. The poll body says his statements may violate Resolution number 11116, which prohibits public ridicule of persons with disabilities during elections.
Bawal na bawal yung pong pag-discriminate because of health condition. Kung yan may totoo na may cancer, kinakailangan pa ba natin i-degrade yung tao?
COMELEC urges candidates to raise the level of campaign discourse. Even President Bongbong Marcos has weighed in, saying misogynistic and insensitive statements from candidates are unacceptable.
Hindi po dapat ito pamarisan. Hindi na po dapat ito pinapalakpakan. Kung nagawa ito dati at pinapalakpakan, hindi na po sa panganahon ng administrasyon ni Pangulong Marcos na dapat ito mangyari.
Meanwhile, COMELEC has visited the National Technical Support Center in PITX, which will serve as a call center for all technical concerns during elections. It will operate 24/7, starting May 2 until the completion of canvassing. This will also be the monitoring center for internet voting of overseas voters, which starts on April 13. The agency says it is ready in case the Supreme Court orders the suspension of online voting, following a petition from PDP.
Meron kaming 16,000 na excess machines kasi na pwede natin magamit hindi lang as contingency machines, kung hindi machines na pwede namin ma-deploy sa ating pong mga embahada at konsulada.
Mobile journalist Amy Atienza, we are One News.
Re-electionist Senator Bongo and Representative Erwin Tulfo topped the latest Octa Research Senatorial Survey. Go garnered 64% voter preference, followed by Erwin Tulfo with 61%. Ben Tulfo ranked third with 48%, while former Senate President Tito Soto and Senator Bong Revilla earned 46% and 45% respectively. Other contenders included Senator Lito Lapid and former Senator Ping Lacson, both with 42%, as well as Senator Pia Cayetano at 41%. Senator Bato de la Rosa, Makati Mayor Abby Binay, and Representative Camille Villar came next with voter preferences between 38 and 35%. Former Senator Manny Pacquiao, TV host Willie Revillame, and ex-Interior Secretary Benhur Abalos trailed with 29% support. Octa Research President Ranjit Rai said the senatorial race is getting tighter for the 10 to 12 spots as the midterm elections approach.
Talaga nagiging mahigpit yung laban, lalo na dun sa 10, 11, 12 no? Slots, no? And you'll notice dun medyo malaking istorya. We have the big stories, really, Pam Aquino and Kiko Pangilinan, at least in the Octa survey, is poised, no? To get into the top 12, or statistically are in the top 12, and have a good chance of getting into the straight 12.
Meanwhile, the Civil Service Commission has warned government officials and employees that engaging in political activity on social media can lead to sanctions. In a memorandum dated March 31, the CSC outlined that even seemingly harmless actions like liking, commenting on, or sharing posts in support of or against any candidate or political party could be considered a form of prohibited political activity. The circular emphasized that these violations can be committed not just during office hours but even outside of work and beyond government premises. The CSC said first-time violators may be suspended for 1 to 6 months, while a second offense could lead to dismissal from service. Uniformed personnel in the AFP and PNP as well as barangay officials are also subject to the restriction.
Now let's talk to political analyst and Octa Research Fellow, Professor Ranjit Rai. Prof, thank you very much for joining us once again on News and Views.
Yes, good morning to both of you and to all our televiewers. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, Prof, we saw yung here in our report, an interview you gave, and you were mentioning former Senator Kiko Pangilinan and former Senator Bam Aquino. Now, I remember months back, although medyo malayo sila sa Magic 12, every time we talked to mga surveys, they always had good gains. No? So what do you see possible that can happen to both of them, let's say, come a week before election time?
Okay, the possibilities are, are very, high for both of these candidates who are in the peripheries, the outliers. No, they were outliers for quite some time. To now get in, no. We were kind of surprised by the current numbers, specific of former Senator Bam Aquino, who gained quite a lot from compared to his January ratings. No?
Yeah.
So together with our report, we provided the media with a summary of all the survey findings since January. So there are 3 pre-election surveys that were conducted, and gave everyone a chance to see the trend. No? And so the trend for former Senator Aquino and former Senator Pangilinan is they're trending up. And given that in the straight 12 in our March 18 to 24 survey, the number 12 is actually former Senator Manny Pacquiao, 29%. So just imagine, Bam Aquino and Kiko Pangilinan are just 28 and 27%. You know, I mean, that's there's no gap. There's hardly any gap, and given that margin, they're basically the same, no, in the same range, no. So there's a very strong statistical chance for these individuals, including, of course, and just to be fair, including former DILG Secretary Benher Abalos, current Senator Francis Tolentino, and even Senator Amy Marcos. They all have a statistical chance of, getting to number 12. So, that just shows, no, that there are how many people? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people vying for number 12, and then you have at the latter part of the list, no, people who also have gained a lot over the last month, no. Salvador, many of the PDP candidates benefited from a sympathy surge, no, because of the arrest of the former President Duterte, and so it's really a highly competitive race, and those on top, by the way, it's dynamic, no. Even the first 6, no, there are movements up and down, and so since we still have a long time to go as far as the May elections are concerned, these numbers will change.
Yes.
Our only caution to our own televiewers, no, is that surveys are just a snapshot. They're not a guarantee of the actual vote, and that they should not be a basis for our vote as citizens.
Yeah.
We join everyone to vote wisely, to make their vote count. And that surveys are just a snapshot. They're a guide, but they should not be the sample ballot that we will follow when we actually vote.
Prof, before we go to another topic, I want to ask also, since you mentioned Senator Amy Marcos as well, parang whatever she does, she's still at the bottom, no? And we see that based dun sa mga survey. What do you think po? Ano po ba yung mga dapat niyang gawin? I mean, ano ba yung mga ginagawa niya ngayon na talagang kahit anong gawin niya, nandun pa rin siya sa ilalim?
But we don't know that. Yes, it's true. Her trend, she's trending down. But she's slowly clarifying where she stands on a lot of issues. She is moving towards a campaign that is akin to an independent senatorial campaign, and so we don't know how. We're running another one this month, and let's see, if all her efforts and initiatives will pay dividends, as far as a higher voting preference is concerned.
Yeah.
But let me make this very clear. She is still within the winning circle of top two, statistically in a very good position and poised to be in the top 12. So very premature to rule her out, and because a lot of people are ruling her out already. But the Marcos name and machinery, it's a well-established reality, in Philippine politics. They always come through during elections. And given where she is now, maybe it was in her own political calculation the best move to make at the moment. But we also have to emphasize this is truly what she believes in. And you heard the hearings yesterday. So you may disagree with her, but this is how she looks at the world, and this is what she believes in. And for some voters, that actually may be an important basis for either voting for her or voting against her. And let's see, it's too early to rule her out.
But Prof, some will say na by Senator Amy making known already na where she stands could also be a negative for her, because she may totally already lose the Marcos vote, majority of it, because her brother, she's going against her brother, who is the president and who enjoys a big support from the North. And also at the same time, the Duterte supporters are still a little iffy. When you're talking about the majority of them, there are a lot. Some surveys would show they're iffy about her loyalties. So, pwede bang may ganitong effect sa kanya din?
It's possible. It's a very possible. Anything can be possible as far as as far as her situation is concerned. Her numbers are trending down. If you look at her numbers in January and where she is now, it's a massive decline. No, but it's anything can happen. And it's still a long time to go to make, as far as campaign is concerned. And maybe she's making a strategic calculation, as I was saying. But it's not, we still have to measure that. We don't have a survey. I can't really make a statement except to say that all possibilities anything is possible as far as she's concerned. She may go up. She actually could go down. But she's still, statistically, as we speak, in a very competitive position.
Pero, Prof, I wanna ask po kasi about single voting issue, no? Single issue voting pala. Kasi nagkaroon po ng ingay tungkol po dyan dahil po dun sa recent statement po ng LGBTQ community kay Senatorial candidate Heidi Mendoza. At tingin niyo po ba, ganun po ba talaga nakaka-apekto ngayon yung mga surveys natin dahil po dun sa single issue voting na nangyayari po among the voters?
Yeah, it could have an effect, definitely. Anything you say now, mishaps in the campaign, misinterpretation of your message, actual faux pas during the campaign, they do matter because in a highly digitized, social media driven age we have, perception, unfortunately, is the reality, and perception is deeply political. So, they better be in their best behavior, as your reports have noted, misogyny, treatments against very strong and organized communities, have to be thought out. These mishaps do happen, and they do have an impact. And you can see it even in Senator Amy Marcos' case, her lack of clarity on where she stands her excessive clarity on certain issues have been, created division and, a declining consensus around her. So just to answer your question, just to give an example, apart from Heidi, Heidi.
Prof, I'd like to ask you, I'd like to go back no to kay former Senator Bam Aquino, because you mentioned a while ago, consistently, he may not be nga in the top 12, pero his numbers have trended positively amongst all the other candidates. What is the messaging that their campaign is doing right? In other words, is it because they're staying away from all the political noise and just driving home their message of education, among other things?
Yeah, I think it's kudos to the campaign. No? While they are not yet where they're supposed to be or where they want to be, there are already dividends and gains as far as their campaign is concerned. I'm not a campaign expert, but if you're looking at the numbers, while it's in the last month of campaigning, it's the right time to peak. No, and Bam Aquino, Senator Bam Aquino, and Senator Kiko, they're not just individuals; they're part of a kilosan, a movement.
Yes.
That's been relatively quiet over the last few years, and maybe this will inspire that movement to more mobilize, to come together, and reaffirm their support for not just the individual but for the politics that they stand for. So yun po yung potential nitong in political preference survey, they should have around 10% of the vote.
Okay.
So the traditional Liberal Party opposition, led by the Liberal Party, it should have something between 7 to 10% of the preference. No? So a lot of Filipino, 10% of Filipinos, 7 to 10% identify themselves with this particular movement. So that should kick in, no? And then of course there's all this talk about strategic alliances, no? The administration helping out because of a common political agenda. That could still happen, and to a great extent we also have to look into the impact of political machines at the local government unit level, no? The congressman,
That's right.
governors, and mayors. These alignments could be very, very fruitful for these two aspiring and for the rest, no? Aspirants into the top 12.
Yeah. Actually, that's another angle to look at because some would say yung silence nilang dalawa naman are dragging them down or hindi talaga sila nakakaangat because parang is it really the best thing to do to be silent on certain issues that people may need their opinions or dapat ba talagang nagsasalita sila?
Kumbaga, Prof, sinasabi ni Angel, yung opinion nila regarding President Duterte's arrest, should they have had at least a statement?
I think their silence is the statement. I mean, does anyone actually believe that they're supportive of the last administration? What they want to do, I think, is to focus more on the issues that they think
or isn't it ayaw nila i-rock yung boat?
Yeah, it's about at this point the goal is not to alienate constituencies, diba? The goal now is to move to the middle to see while we disagree vehemently and based on principle on quite a number of issues, maybe the focus is what can we do together? Where can we have consensus? And I guess a lot of the campaigns are moving towards that. Issues that can bring us together instead of divide us.
That's right.
I mean, I think all the campaigns are doing that, and of course, trying to build their own base of support in specific, regional and local government units, no. And so that will play a key role, given how competitive and how tight this race will be. Political machines will be important. The resources of the administration will definitely have an impact, and any support that they can get from from any little support they can get from as many constituencies as possible will truly matter, especially in the case of Kiko Pangilinan, Senator Tolentino, Benher Abalos. Of course, Tolentino and Abalos will benefit from a political machine, no? The
Yeah.
administration.
Administration sila.
That should be, there are no real studies, but some experts are saying between 5 to 10% addition. Of course, there's also the
Sa tail end yun, no?
support
Sisipa.
of, the support of religious groups. So, ang dami pang factors and
Yeah,
very
yeah.
diverse.
Pero Prof, I'd like to ask you, no? Kasi the political landscape has changed drastically in these last 2 years. Dati, it was as simple as Duterte Marcos versus liberal pinks. Now you have the fight between Duterte Marcos and the unity has been really divided and broken. Now, yung supporter base nitong Duterte Marcos, which are now at odds ends against each other, where do you see this fallout geared towards? Will it be who will benefit more? Will the Liberal Party benefit more from this fallout? Do you see Marcos supporters identifying now more with the Liberal Party? In other words, kung I voted for Marcos last election, baka I'm open to voting for some of the yellows.
Definitely, the fallout between the Dutertes and the Marcoses have given a space really for alternatives, no? And you're seeing that now. They're flowing up, no? They're moving up. Kiko Pangilinan, and, Senator Bam Aquino. Of course, I don't think, based at least on our studies and studies of other experts, I don't think many Filipinos identify with parties.
Okay.
They identify with personalities, with families, and now lately advocacies also. And so to answer your question, yes, the fallout, the fight, the divide, which also divide the nation. When you look at our recent surveys, or our latest survey will release soon, close to 20% of the population are now identify themselves as pro-Duterte. And the base of support is in Mindanao, in Central Visayas, and in some other parts of Visayas. And there's a smattering, a small percentage in Balance Luzon and NCR. When you look at the Marcos vote, people who identify with the administration, that's over 30% of the population. It's really Balance Luzon, hardcore in NCR, and some places in Visayas.
Yeah.
So that's 50% of the country already. The other 50% are independents. 40% are independents, and so that's where the fight is now.
That's a swing.
40 people, the swing. No? And of that, something like 30, a little over 30%. I don't know, a little over 25% are what you call independents. They don't identify with the Dutertes. They don't identify with the Marcoses, and they're very open to being courted by another movement. And that's where I think the opportunity for Senator Bam and Senator Pico will lie. The messaging. I think they should stick to their campaign. Message, their style, maybe ramp up awareness. Awareness building initiatives on maybe online and in TV. Final push. I think and then bring in the big guns, Risa Ontiveros, Lenny Lenny Robredo. I think that will really help, kasi I think what makes them distinct is really that they belong to a movement. And they should reaffirm, in fact, what makes them distinct. They belong to a brand of politics, and people are looking for that. The independents are looking for a new movement to support.
Yun nga. It's good that you mentioned po independent, kasi nga po, what about the Makabayan blocks and other independent candidates that are also known for fighting their own principles or standing on their own principles. Pero kahit anong pang nangyayari ngayon, yung pagwawatak ng unity, etc. Some point, yung mga kababayan natin, sabi nila, nasusuka na sila sa ganitong usapin ng political. Pero kahit papano, hindi pa rin po umaangat yung mga ganong klaseng kandidato. And we see still familiar names
progressives
sa surveys.
Yeah, that's true. It's unfortunate. When you look at the slate of the left, it's full of people who are not just makabayan, they're also really competent individuals. I won't go beyond that because the civil service is going to automatically. But the thing is, But that being said, competence, performance, while it's understood by many of our voters, no, popularity, awareness of the individual, the political name, political families, no, these things still matter in the population of the
Machinery,
state.
oh.
Yeah. And so it's still hard for progressive groups to break into, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't run, and they should not that they shouldn't continue talking about the advocacies that they support. Uh, Same is also with Senator Bam, no, the Liberal Party has been truly, no, politically sidelined, no, and maybe a win will be useful for their movement, no, for resurgence of their kind of movement, because I think a lot of Filipinos are looking for another brand of politics beyond the Marcos and Duterte. It's a big chunk, no, that's around 25 to 30. If you include those who have not independents, but really who don't want to classify themselves, that's close to 40% of all Filipinos, no? And so parang ang daming opportunity for progressive politics to emerge.
Yeah,
I guess
that's right.
the important role is for individuals to stop becoming individuals and become citizens and truly study, truly advocate, and meaningfully participate in the life of our country
Yeah.
through progressive politics, and for me, to help educate our own citizens about issues, about why we should vote for, who should we vote for. So I mean, it's a whole of nation approach, no? And I believe, no, I'm always positive naman, optimistic that our politics will improve and evolve over time.
Last question na po, since you mentioned CSC, what do you make of that memo given by the CSC, yung kanilang warning sa mga government officials, uniform personnel about engaging in any political activity,
On
even
SOCMED.
liking, sharing, diba, yung mga articles that are for or against a certain political personality. Sa tingin niyo po ba, does it curtail our freedom of expression?
Yeah, but before I make that comment, no, I think I agree with the CSC in terms of reaffirming and reasserting that government employees should be impartial.
Yeah.
They should not engage in political activities. No, that's been there ever since, and it's
Yes.
important principle in any bureaucracy. No, that the bureaucracy remains neutral. But of course, if the CSC can clarify further beyond their memo what they actually mean, then we don't have these fears, no, of the memo curtailing our freedom of expression. It's important, no, that there's a balance, and I feel that all the civil service needs to clarify is the details that they put in that memo.
Yeah.
And I think with that clarification, people will act appropriately, especially our government employees. But again, yun nga, there's a balance, a fine line, no, between in the enforcement of their memo and the possibility, no, that it can be construed as a violation of our everyday rights as citizens. Lalo na kasi sa social media, it's so hard to to police that and to discipline ourselves also. No?
That's right. That's right.
Gray areas.
Well,
Gray areas, yes, you're right.
well, thank you very much, Prof, for your time. It was a good discussion, but we hope to have you back again. With that was political analyst and Okta Research Fellow, Professor Ranjit Rai.
Thank you so much. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Senators clashed with key government officials during a Senate inquiry on the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Here's the report.
Who exactly gave the order to put former President Rodrigo Duterte on a plane to The Hague? That was the repeated question of Senator Bato de la Rosa to PNP CIDG Chief Nicolas Torre during Thursday's Senate hearing. Torre led Duterte's arrest.
The order that I received from the Chief of the Philippine National Police is to serve the warrant and ensure his delivery to the 250th Wing, to the team that will deliver him to The Hague.
But Senator Bato found it unconvincing.
Considering that I have a team
you
of
are the
PG
one
there.
there. Wala si SOJ doon. Ikaw ang nagkarga sa kanya sa aeroplano. Kaya tinatanong kita, who gave you the order?
Sir, I take my orders from the Chief of the Philippine National Police.
But when PNP Chief Marbil was asked, he invoked executive privilege.
So, General Marbil, are you lying?
Sir, I'm not lying, but I just want to have the executive privilege po regarding this matter. This operational matter.
Nandito na tayo eh. Executive privilege ka dyan.
That's when Justice Secretary Boying Remulla objected.
That's why we didn't want to attend the last hearing, because this is what we were expecting, ma'am. We didn't want to be bullied into a position.
No, we're not bullying you, sir. We're not
I
bullying
think
you, sir.
that
Remulla argued that lawmakers are attempting to coerce people into admitting something they are unwilling to acknowledge. There were also questions on why the former president was immediately turned over to The Hague instead of pursuing extradition. The Interpol diffusion notice allegedly called for Duterte's arrest and for an extradition process to be carried out. But according to Remulla, that wouldn't work as the Philippines is no longer a member of the ICC.
po yung malinaw po na may treaty po na kinakailangan para ho magkaroon ng extradition. Eh wala pong treaty eh. Kasi nga nag-withdraw na tayo sa ICC.
Former Supreme Court Associate Justice Adolfo Azcuna, on the other hand, said the ICC's arrest warrant was legal, but the surrender to the ICC was not properly executed.
Sa palagay ko po ay it's either we have the Rome Statute or not. If we don't have a treaty, then we cannot surrender the suspect to the ICC under this section, because this section requires that the surrender be pursuant to a treaty. Pursuant means in accordance with. And so if there is no treaty, in my view, we cannot make a surrender.
Meantime, Special Envoy and Transnational Crime Ambassador Marcos Lacanilao was cited in contempt during the hearing for allegedly lying regarding Duterte's arrest. However, he was released after Senate President Chis Escudero refused to sign the contempt order.
Okay, so makulay ulit na hearing, pero at the same time, a lot of people are saying it's already a waste of time and waste of resources of the people's money.
Ito yung sinasabi ng marami because most of the questions asked by the committee is almost the same as the first.
Yes.
And parang paulit-ulit na lang yung mga nagtatanong daw sa loob ng, hindi ako yun ng committee, by trying to get the resource persons to answer a different answer.
Or admit something.
Admit something. Ito yung sinasabi ni Secretary Remulla, parang may pinapaamin kayo, hindi naman namin alam kung anong gusto niya namin sabihin. So, nagkaroon sila ng clash, stalemate. Parang wala. No winner, no loser. Parang wala ka na-achieve.
We all know naman na parang ang nangyayari doon sa hearing since it started is to paint nga daw yung na parang mali talaga yung ginawa ng administrasyon na to kay former President Rodrigo Duterte at kawawa yung nangyari sa kanya, kaawa-awa. Pero yun nga, dapat, kasi di ba yung iba sinasabi executive privilege, may mga ibang tanong for executive privilege. Sinasabi ng iba, ipa-contempt mo na lang yung presidente kasi lahat naman niya sumusunod lang sa
Yes, because we have to remember, alam mo,
patawag mo yung brother mo.
Lahat naman nakikita mo dyan, yung mga resource persons, hindi naman maggagawa ng decision yan kung walang basbas ng Pangulo. Because at the end of the day, the buck stops at the office of the President. And something as big as this, putting an ex-president under arrest and transporting him out of the country to the ICC, hindi gagawin niya ng secretary lang. Presidente ang dapat may basbas dito. So bakit, kung gusto nyo, Sa
Kasi
may
nangyari,
nag-post, gusto niya i-contempt nyo na lang yung yung presidente kung kaya
Saka
nyo.
yung nangyari din yesterday, yung they were trying to hold in contempt yung Ambassador Lacalinao.
Yung
Yung
Oh, yeah,
special
yeah, yeah.
envoy for
Special-
transnational crime natin. Kasi he was the one who accompanied the
FPRD.
FPRD sa The Hague at siya din yung nag-turn over. So meron silang gustong ipasagot sa kanya na hindi niya masagot, kaya pinapakontempt. Ngayon, nainis nga si Senator Amy Marcos kasi later after 2 hours na release na rin siya sa pagkakadetain yung special
Because ayaw
envoy.
pirmahan ni
Because walang pirma. Ito nga nag-release ng statement si Senator Cheese Escudero. Kanina lang early this morning saying na number 1, hindi daw pwedeng sabihin na ayaw niyang pirmahan kasi hindi pa nga daw niya nakita yung order, yung contempt order. Number 2, there are certain processes daw na dapat sundin, at alam naman daw yon ni Senator Amy Marcos. Parang nilambas nga niya si Senator Amy Marcos sa kanyang
Dapat
sa kanyang
hindi
statement.
pinadetain ka agad without a signature.
Oo. Tapos yon, anyway, so parang pinapa-show cause order niya itong si Special Envoy para makapag-explain bakit ito yung naging sagot doon sa naging hearing kahapon. And of course, yun din, yung parang sinasabi ni Senator Cheese Escudero, yung humanitarian reasons, bakit kailangan paalisin si
namatay yung grandfather.
Special Envoy Lacalinao dahil nga kailangan ilibing yung grandfather niya kahapon. So parang ganun. Kaya after noon, sabi niya, I'm issuing a show cause order para nga makapag-explain siya.
Tsaka ang sinasabi kasi ng iba, unlike other committee hearings na alam mong skewed to one side na rin at least doon, may mga senators that are on the neutral pay and have a neutral stance, di ba? Kahit alam mong may bias yung mga ibang committee hearings, so before, may mga neutral na senators to balance it out. Pero kasi ang problema daw itong hearing, nakikita mo lang dito, belong to one side. At ayaw mag-attend daw, at least one from the opposition, na si Senator Risa, diba? But hindi mag-attend or any of those from the other side para i-balance out daw yon, para seryosohin daw ng ibang resource persons yung pagsasagot nila.
Pagdating naman dun sa ibang mga resource person, they have found an ally with retired Associate Justice, what's his name?
Ascuna. Pero hindi total ally. You read his statements carefully because ang sinabi niya,
tama yung ICC, legal yung aresto, yung warrant,
yung
pero
method of surrender is wrong.
Kasi sinasabi nga niya, dapat daw dinala pa muna sa local court. Pero ang ini-insist ni Secretary Boying Remulla, wala na tayo sa Rome Statute eh. Ang finalo natin dito yung international
Tsaka sinabi rin ni, before we move on,
parang nag-boomerang kay FPRRD yung kanyang pag-alis sa Rome Statute.
Former Justice Carpio.
Yes.
Remember, former Justice Carpio said you don't need to put FPRRD in front of a competent court in the Philippines anymore because ginawa na yun ng ICC when he was there. That's why ngayon nagko-confirmation of identity, di ba? Yung state your name, di ba? Are you aware of your charges? Kasi yun na daw, pwede naman daw doon yun.
Gawa na sila ng batas, di ba? In aid of legislation naman ito. At saka sampahan na yung mga dapat sampahan ng kaso. So we could move forward.
In aid of legislation na naman tayo.
Speaking of move forward.
The Filipino-Chinese business community has expressed its deep outrage and sorrow over the recent kidnapping and murders of businessman Anson Ke and his driver Armani Pabilio. Now, in a statement, the community condemned these acts as heinous and barbaric assault on the nation, demanding swift justice for the victims. On the morning of Wednesday, April 9, the bodies of Ke and Pabilio were found by local barangay watchmen in Rizal while conducting their routine rounds. According to the PNP, the victims were last seen on March 29 and reported missing on the afternoon of March 30. The incident comes shortly after another kidnapping case in February where a 14-year-old Chinese student was also abducted and his driver was killed.
PNP Anti-Kidnapping Group Chief General Elmer Ragay has been removed from his post. Police spokesperson Jean Fajardo said PNP Chief Romel Marbil was reportedly unsatisfied with Ragay's performance. Police Colonel David Poclay will now replace Ragay in the role. Fajardo clarified that the decision resulted from a combination of factors, not just the latest case where a kidnapped Filipino-Chinese businessman and his driver were found dead in Rizal. The action also came after several handling issues in the past cases, including a February rescue operation involving a kidnapped Chinese minor. The family of one of the 2 Filipinos confirmed dead in the earthquake-stricken Myanmar is hoping for the immediate repatriation of his ashes. The victim, Francis Aragon, had been working as a physical education teacher at an international school in Mandalay for 10 months. Aragon was staying in a condominium near the earthquake's epicenter when the tragedy struck. His body, found in an advanced stage of decomposition, was identified through his tattoo, personal belongings, and passport. His wife, Kat Cruz Aragon, said she was able to speak to Francis just a few hours before the massive quake.
Normal na pag-uusap lang po namin everyday na nakamustahan, ano yung gagawin mo buong araw, saan ka kakain, mga ganun po. Siguro kung naririnig niya ako, gusto ko lang sabihin na huwag siya mag-alala sa mga anak namin at gagawin kong lahat para maitaguyod sila ng maayos. At kung ano yung pangarap niya sa mga anak namin, susubukan ko ito pa rin.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. The Senate Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations is set to conduct an inquiry over the DENR's decision to revoke a housing deal within Masungi Geo Reserve. For more details, we have mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Merimon.
Magandang umaga sa inyo. Ngayong tanghali ay sasagawa at sisilipin ng Senate Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations o Blue Ribbon Committee yung napinangungunahan ni Senator Alan Peter Cayetano ang pag-revoke ng DNR doon nga sa SJVA nito kasama ang private developer na Blue Star Construction Development Corporation kung mayroon bang naging pang-aabuso at mismanagement ng mga pampublikong lupain. Noong 1996 kasi kinontrata nga ng DNR ang Blue Star sa pagpapatayo ng 5,000 low-cost housing units sa Tanay Rizal. Pero in-extend noong 2002 yung kanilang SJVA kung saan nadagdagan nito ng 5,000 pa na housing units o 300 hectares called as Lot 10 kung saan nga nag-oopera ang Masungi Geo Reserve. Dito ngayon nakita nitong Marso na kinansela ng DNR ang kontrata dahil hindi raw sumunod ito sa proseso ng procurement at bidding at may kakulangan daw sa presidential proclamation dahil hindi raw designated for housing purposes ang naturang lupa. Pero ayon naman sa Masungi Geo Reserve Foundation, hindi naman daw ginawa ng DNR ang kanilang end of the contract. Kasama na rito yung pagpapaalis sa mga illegal occupants at tuksain ang mga land grabbers na nakita. Matatandaan ang Masungi Geo Reserve sa Rizal ay isang protected area na kilala sa mga prehistoric limestone formations, kagubatan at mayaman na biodiversity. Inaasahan dadalo ngayong araw ang katawan ng Masungi Geo Reserve Foundation. Kasama na dito siguro si co-founder Billy Dumaliang na nagsasabing matagal na raw silang humihingi ng dialogo sa DNR, ang Blue Star Corporation at maging ang Department of Environment and Natural Resources na sina Secretary Tony Yulo Loizaga at iba pang stakeholders. Balik sa inyo.
Thank you for that report. That was mobile journalist Mary Mon Reyes.
In other news, NAIA ramps up facility improvements just in time for Holy Week travel rush. The new NAIA Infrastructure Corporation has opened additional immigration counters and a special wing for overseas Filipino workers to speed up immigration processing. Vehicle parking slots have also been increased and transport vehicles repositioned. The NNIC expects an average daily passenger volume of at least 155,000 during Holy Week. This is up from the 130,000 average daily passenger count last year.
Sana yung mga biyahero, matuwa sila sa nakikita nila na walang tigil ang construction dito sa terminals, di ba? So alam nila na maraming improvements na mangyayari. Doon naman sa mga first time, ang mapil sana nila, ito ba yung sinasabing worst airport in the world? Parang hindi naman ganoon na nakapipil namin na ngayon. In fact, for this year, gusto naming mapili ang NAIA as the most improved airport in the region.
2 Filipino mountaineers are set to conquer the highest peak in the world, Mount Everest. Para bigyan ng mukha ng balita, Mobile Journal, Denise Valdesancho.
Matapos nga ang halos 2 dekada, 2 Pinoy ang muling susubok na akyatin ang Mount Everest. Taong 2006 pa nang maabot ng isang Pinoy ang tuktok ng 8,850-meter tall na Mount Everest. This 2025, tatangkain niyang muli ng 29-year-old na si Geno Panganiban at 42-year-old na si Miguel Angelo Mapalad.
It has always been my passion to hike. 2022, first time ko makita si Mount Everest. Nakuha ko yung parang may Call of the Himalayas.
Nobyembre ng nakaraang taon nang mapagdesisyonan nila ni Miguel na akyatin ang highest point on Earth, ang Mount Everest.
Parang napag-decide na namin na kaming dalawa, parang perfect fit for each other. We've tested ourselves, nakilala din namin ang isa't isa, and nalaman namin yung strengths and weaknesses ng isa't isa.
Aabutin ng 2 buwan ang journey to the summit, kaya hindi lang daw ito usapang pisikal. Masusubok rin ang kakayahan nila mentally.
Daming pwede mangyari. Magkakasakit ako, magkakasakit siya. Mind over matter na lang. So, yung moral support namin sa isa't isa, I think that plays a big factor sa summit success.
Sa Pilipinas, Mount Apo na ang may highest point na nasa halos 3,000 meters ang taas. Kung ikukumpara sa mga nakasanayan nating bundok sa bansa na mapuno at umaapaw sa oxygen, ibang usapan daw sa Mount Everest na halos triple ang taas sa Apo. Kaya ibang klase rin ang naging training ng duo.
Unang-una, nagkaroon kami ng familiarization sa high altitude. Tapos, sinanay din namin yung sarili namin sa lamig. Sinanay namin sarili namin sa paglalakad sa snow, sa ice. And we also improved our technical climbing skills.
Sa ngayon, nauna na sa Nepal si Miguel upang masimula ng kanyang acclimatization habang kalilipad lang ni Geno upang sundan ang kanyang mentor.
Basta alam namin na mahirapan kami. Mapapagod kami, yan. But yung tiwala namin sa isa't isa and the support coming from our fellow Filipinos, that will push us to the top. And I know, I'm confident na we can make it.
Another history in the making. At katulad nga ng ibang paglalakbay, ang patuloy nilang paalala to take a pause every once in a while and to enjoy the climb. Mobile Journal Denise Valdesancho po, hatid ang mukha ng balita.
Now in sports, Creamline survived Petrogas in Game 2 of the PVL All-Filipino Conference Finals. The Cool Smashers won 25-15, 16-25, 25-21, 15-25, and 15-9 to push the series to a deciding Game 3. Bernadette led the team with 22 points on 19 attacks, 1 block, and 2 aces. The win also kept Creamline's hopes of a 5th straight PVL crown alive. Game 3 is set for Saturday, April 12 at the PhilSports Arena in Pasig City.
Alright, quickly lang before we go, maraming salamat Buddha's Belly, Marjorie Tan, for these yummy treats you always give us every Friday. Thank you. And
TGIF.
Wait lang, babaan nyo lang.
Ayan.
Yan, babaan nyo lang ha. And before we go, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. More smiling, less worrying. More compassion, less judgment. More blessed, less stressed. More love, less hate. A quote from Roy T. Bennett. Have a happy weekend, everyone. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again on Monday. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.